An elite paramilitary rescue team are recruited to rescue a cabinet minister who crash landed in enemy territory. One by one, they are hunted by an intergalactic big game hunter who has come to Earth to hunt the most dangerous game in the 1987 action horror sci-fi classic Predator. I'm Connor Eyzaguirre.
I'm Caleb.
I'm Colton Jenkins. I'm Cristian Aguilar.
And this is the 200th episode of Filmgazm. Happy 200th Wednesday in a row, ladies and gentlemen. The gauntlet ends here with our awesome 200th episode and second Forgasm. I'm joined today by three of my esteemed colleagues. Regrettably, two members of the team couldn't make it, but I know Austin and Josh are here in spirit. I'd just like to take this moment to say I couldn't have asked for a better team. Thanks for being here, guys.
No problem. Yeah, anytime.
I've been looking forward to this for a long time. I've had Predator on the books for 200 for a few months now, and it just lined up perfectly with the release of Prey. It's like, what else would make sense here? And this is such a perfect fucking movie that it's what I want to celebrate with. So, it's gonna be great. No rewind, no new news. This is all Predator all the time, and let's get into it. What are you guys' history with this movie? How, Predator, what does it mean to you guys? Whoever wants to go first.
We're just tossing it out there like that, a free fall. Wow. Good direction. So when I was a young lad, my dad was really into the 80s action stuff. And so like outside of like horror films, he'd sit with me. He'd show me a lot of the 80s action stuff. One of the big ones being obviously Schwarzenegger. He loved Schwarzenegger because of it. I really fell in love with Schwarzenegger's work. And I remember he borrowed this from a friend of his on like VHS or DVD or whatever the copy was, and put it in. And he didn't tell me anything about it. He goes, "Hey, it's just a really good movie. You'll like it. It's one of Schwarzenegger's best." And I was entranced for like the entire hour and 40 odd minutes it plays. I have loved it ever since. I honestly, 100%, it's my favorite Schwarzenegger film. It is my number one Schwarzenegger film for me. That's hard because it's T2 up there, but it's this one for me. I absolutely adore this film. And while I do think a lot of the sequels are fun, right? I definitely think 2 is underrated, 3 is a lot of fun, and less said about the last one, the better. Obviously they never get close to this. But yeah, this is a classic of action, horror, even a little bit of sci-fi, Cinema, this is a great film.
Hell yeah. It's a genre bender for sure. It's, I love that it begins as kind of like a Commando-esque, 80s Cold War guerrilla insurgents movie, and then turns into a fucking, horror sci-fi adventure. And, the hunters become the hunted. I love how this film does that so seamlessly. It just evolves naturally. You don't even like feel the change. It just happens. Wonderful. Cristian, how about you?
Yeah, so a little bit different. So I think I was actually exposed to Alien versus Predator first, just because of like what I was. Yeah, definitely saw this movie in like a laundromat, like in Spanish. Most of the movies I've said we've seen or we've talked about, I feel like it's been the same. But this one, I have distinct memories of like being played kind of in the background. But I really wish I would have seen this movie first before anything, because yeah, AVP is its own sort of beast, and definitely. You look at this first movie and then compared to any of the sequels, it's definitely, like we said, it's a genre bender. The first act of this movie alone is just like, it could be so many different things. And by the end of the movie, and you get full glimpse of the Predator without its mask. Like it's a final payoff that's so awesome. But no, I definitely agree with Caleb that this is definitely like T2, or up, at my favorite spots, even first Terminator. For my favorite Schwarzenegger movie. Watching it as an adult, I can really appreciate it. I was a huge fan of wrestling, so I always like Jesse the Body Ventura is a crazy character in real life. So I hope we get to talk about him a little bit more. But
oh yeah,
I was listening to a podcast he was on, and just like the set of this movie, just so much testosterone and toxic masculinity, just like pumping through the roof. And you see the meme of Carl Weathers and Schwarzenegger and do the arm grip. Like it's just nothing but as a guy, you just get riled up to see this cheesy at times action movie, but it still holds up, still really good. It's definitely, to me, this is the 80s action movie, the 80s Schwarzenegger movie for me. So
oh yeah, I mean, you've got a cadre of alpha males constantly trying to one up each other. They would get up earlier and earlier to work out first and just be like, I'm the beef, not you. I'm the beef. And it just got out of hand. I mean, I also find it funny that two of these guys would end up becoming governors. Like, I almost wish Carl Weathers would run for office and we get a hat trick here. But I think, that time has passed.
Like, nothing beats the sexual Tyrannosaurus himself.
I love that you said that. Thank you.
I looked into his campaign. He came out of nowhere. He was a third-party candidate in Minnesota. He became governor of Minnesota. He won, like nobody expected him to win. So, yeah, the sexual Tyrannosaurus triumphed once again. And we are going to talk about the body down the road. So I want to save some stuff, but I can't believe that out of nowhere, he's just like, I'm the governor of Minnesota now.
Yeah. And has become like a spokesperson for this movie. He always, because, Schwarzenegger doesn't really do all these documentaries, but Jesse Ventura is more than willing to show up and talk about Predator.
Beautiful. Colton, what are your thoughts on Predator?
Sort of the same thing. I was shown this movie by actually not my dad this time. It was actually my grandpa. Because but it wasn't this movie. It was same as Cristian. It was AVP I saw first, and that was the first movie I saw in like the Alien and Predator franchise both. And I was like, wow, these two characters are fucking cool. I want to see them. So I watched Alien first, and then my dad was like, oh, you thought that was cool? Wait until you watch this shit, Predator. And now it's been kind of a thing. Every time I see my dad, we don't live in the same state, so whenever I go see him now, we always do the, you son of a bitch, and that stupid fucking handshake where they flex. Yeah.
Is it safe to say that like Predator's like a rite of passage as a man apparently? Because almost all of us have been like, yeah, our dad showed us this movie.
Yeah.
Our grandpa. Like, it's just like, all right, son, you're at that age. It's time to sit down and watch what is probably the manliest film you'll see in your life.
Yeah.
On Predator. If he threw for a loop, like, we're going to watch Enchanted. What?
I'm in pretty much the same boat. I saw Alien versus Predator when I was 9 and thought, this is pretty cool. And then my dad was like, well, I got some stuff to show you. And we watched Alien, we watched Predator, and I was like, I like all of this. I want my whole life to be about all of this. Yes. So, and I never looked back. I mean, my dad came to visit me a few months ago and we watched Predator. It's just like one of those movies you watch with your dad. It's a weird thing that apparently is universal. And I love that. I didn't know that was universal till tonight. Yeah, it's a classic. As far as my favorite Arnold movie though, I mean, it's hard to pick a favorite between this and T2. It really is. It's got to be just a coin flip on any given day because I don't know if I can pick between those two movies.
So today it's Predator. Tomorrow it'll be
Oh, it's T2. No, it's tough. Those are like, to me, like the pinnacle of like Schwarzenegger, and below that would probably be like the original Terminator. I know for a lot of people Conan, but I need to rewatch that myself personally. It's been years. Yeah. Commando, that's up there for a lot of people. And that is a really badass movie. But I don't know, like nothing has ever come close to like T2 and Predator, and even the 90s stuff he did that I like Kindergarten Cop and Ching All the Way. Don't get me wrong, those are awesome movies.
Yeah, man,
like those two are just prime Schwarzenegger. And to me, especially Predator, because this is like 80s Schwarzenegger. Like he knew who he was, like, which I think I also like a lot too, is that all these guys knew who they were going into this movie, and this film plays it. It does not downplay it. It lays it up to a T.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Arnold, like I was when I was doing my production notes, the original plan was just Arnold, like versus the Predator. And it was Arnold who said, like, no, I need a team. Like, this has to be a squad. And so he worked with John McTiernan and the screenwriters to make this team of guys who were Arnold's team. And without the team, I mean, I'm sure it'd be good, but it's great because of these guys you all like learn to like within 15 minutes of meeting them. It's brilliantly written characters that you care about every death in this movie. And that's tough to pull off.
Yeah, I had read that too, and I thought that it was really awesome of Arnold's, because I think in this point in his career, like, I mean, granted, I feel like the 2000s growing up, there were so many Arnold jokes and pop culture about his accent and stuff. This movie, like, some of the dialogue is actually really good. You know, there's like the cheesy quotes. You know, that's just corny 80s movie, but no, I think it speaks to him like, as an actor. I definitely think he could do it standalone, but it kind of, you know, certain people you expect to be prima donnas and stuff like that in production. But no, he seemed like, okay, like he's in it, like, and I love that the screenwriters, I think they had an idea of like who they wanted already. I think they already knew they wanted Carl Weathers, and it's so awesome to see, like, yeah, this is 80s action movie kind of fan service in a way. You know, you have Apollo, you have you know, Arnold, you know, you have all these people, so it's really awesome that he did that.
Yeah. That segues perfectly into the into my production notes. So why don't we get started at that?
I'll say it real quick. It does show, like, you know, Schwarzenegger in 80, because this came out in 87. You know, this was like peak Schwarzenegger. So, you know, it says a lot, you know, like you were saying, that he was able to put ego aside. You know, he is a mega star. He is Arnold Schwarzenegger. To say, like, hey, you know, yeah, you 100% could make this film with just me and it'd be a huge box office success because of my name alone, but it works better this way. So to be able to put that ego aside, especially at your peak like that, and say, like, hey, the movie would be better if we went this route. That does say a lot about him as an actor, as a person, to put that aside.
Seeing him in interviews and, like, you know, hearing production stories, he really does come across as someone who is very aware that he owes everything to people who, like, helped him get here. And he never seems that egotistical. I'm sure, you know, he's had his moments throughout his career. I mean, you can't be, you know, the highest grossing box office star on earth, Mr. Universe, and the governor of California, and not have one moment where you're like, I'm a badass. But I think for the most part, I really respect Arnold for how he's kind of parlayed that into being able to inspire people and help people. And, you know, I really respect him. He's one of my favorite, just, you know, kind of Hollywood guys, because I feel like he never fell into the trap.
No, he knew, like, he knew his persona. He knew who he was. He definitely had an aura about him, I'm sure, based off how other actors have talked about him. But yeah, he didn't get caught up, minus, you know, obviously a little scandal that, you know, everyone now knows about. He didn't get caught up in, like, you know, anything too major in Hollywood that most actors get caught up in.
Yeah, he's not a saint, but I do respect his journey.
It's like, what was it, Bill Burr? Was it Bill Burr that made the joke? Yeah. He's not everything's gonna be an alley-oop. He's going to lob a couple misses, guys.
It's been nothing but layups for 40 years. Oh, good stuff. So the concept for Predator actually came out of a joke. I found this fascinating. It was when Rocky IV came out in 1985. And someone joked that Rocky Balboa had run out of earthly opponents to fight. Like, he's fought Creed, he's fought Mr. T, he's fought Dolph Lundgren. Who else could he fight? If they were going to make a fifth Rocky, he'd have to fight an alien. Somebody joked that. And to screen,
Be careful about the Rocky franchise right now. Stallone's in a pissed off mood.
Yeah, I heard the Drago spinoff. Dolph Lundgren had to come out and say, like, I didn't know Sly wasn't involved. I'm sorry. Yeah, wild. But back in 87 or 85, screenwriters Jim and John Thomas read way too much into this joke and started working on a screenplay inspired by it. They're like, what if a big buff 80s guy did fight an alien? That would be a cool movie.
I mean, I'm glad they did.
Yeah. I love when inspiration strikes. Sometimes, you know, somebody can make some stupid Rocky joke and somebody overhears it and they're like, what if? And now we've got this giant sci-fi action horror franchise. It's amazing. Those are the stories I'm going to be looking for going forward on this show. I want to know how all these movies came about, because sometimes it is this crazy.
Is this because of development how Beyond the Bad?
Yeah.
Does that inspire you?
Very much so. Yeah. Good work.
Thank you. I'm pretty badass what I do, but go on.
You are? Yeah. I had to do it one week and I'm like, this is fucking hard. I like this. Respect. You remember Colton? You were there.
Yeah, Colton.
So the original script was called Hunter and featured an entire cabal of alien hunters just hunting different kinds of creatures. And they streamlined it to just one alien hunter going after the most dangerous game, humans, and the most dangerous version of humans, soldiers. So it worked out. They, this is too much, streamline it.
Yeah, I mean it works out too, because I mean think about it, you're using. Well, I like the movie doesn't really specify at any point like what kind of special forces they are. It's just that hey, these are spec op guys. The only mention we get is when they find that Green Beret team that gets mutilated. So I mean think about it, yeah, you're taking essentially, for Earth, for our planet here, our most deadliest legalized killers. Not taking count any on the table shit that goes on. But people that are trained to, take a life, move on, accomplish mission, go home, rinse and repeat at some point in the future. That is their job day in and day out. And then you mix that with like the ultimate alien warrior or predator. Yeah, no, I can see what they streamlined. It worked out wonderfully.
Yeah, it did.
You brought up really quick. You brought up Hunter, and I don't know if anyone's seen, but I've kind of like dabbled into watching sort of the what are they called, mockbusters, like the faux blockbuster stuff. Yeah. So I've actually seen Alien versus Hunter by someone who like pirated or got that movie thinking it was AVP. And within like the first 15 minutes, I'm like, what the fuck is this knockoff bullshit? So I think it's funny that the knockoff still uses that or use that name. Yeah, it's funny. And I do like that as the franchise progresses, we do get to see, like in part 3, we get to see how, cartel guys and serial killers, like how they would handle a predator. And constantly hunting for the most dangerous version of a human it can find. I love that idea. And this weird code of honor it has about, it's not going to kill you if you're unarmed. If there's no sport in it, he doesn't want a part of it. That's so cool. Like this thing it's intelligent. It's got a code. It's not just some mindless monster. It's dangerous as hell.
Yeah. Which you could, I think sometimes some of the sequels, they smudge it a little bit, but yeah, for the most part, yeah, I think it's cool. So basically, we would be fine. Don't fight a predator, boys. All right, whatever you do, don't go out there and fight a predator, so we can all live to see another day.
So once they established soldiers, Jim and John Thomas, they were first-time screenwriters. They couldn't get the time of day from anyone in Hollywood. They wrote this movie, and they're like, let's sell this. And no one, you don't have a hit, don't talk to me. So they did what any budding screenwriter would do in the 80s. They just slipped it under the door of 20th Century Fox producer Michael Levy. And this guy was like, what the hell is this? And he's like, oh, this is pretty good. So he brought the script to Joel Silver, who had recently produced Commando. Joel Silver would become like one of the biggest producers in Hollywood. He gave this film a budget, wanted to turn it into an action flick. So these two guys, just by, their own, like really just cojones, were like, let's try this, and just put their script under a producer's door, and it worked.
It's funny in Hollywood, you hear about it all the time where like no one wants to give a first-time screenwriter or director or whoever the time of day because they need product to prove their worth. But then they don't have product to prove their worth because no one's giving them time of day. It's like this weird catch-22 where it's like, then it almost sometimes it makes me sit and go, then what's the fucking point? Like, what is the point? Like, you guys need to read something from a first-time person to actually give them that work, or else it just sits there. But Hollywood is a fickle bitch.
True. Very true. So it worked out. Joel Silver decided, all right, I got this. So he hired John McTiernan to direct this thing. And McTiernan, prior to this, had only directed one movie, the 1986 horror film Nomads, which didn't really do well. So weird that the producers were like, let's give this barely tested director a shot. These screenwriters, like, they didn't even look at them.
Meanwhile, Carpenter makes one mistake. Like, he can't direct anything else from us.
Yeah.
Now I was looking into the director's like sort of bio, and it's crazy. Sort of he's totally bankrupt now, and
Oh, we're gonna get to that.
Yeah, it's
Tiernan's
crazy.
fall from grace is kind of fucking nuts.
Like usually these Hollywood guys at least can kind of catch back, some sort of wealth, but no, this guy really went through the ringer.
Yeah, Colton, it looked like you were gonna say something. Do you have a? All right, so we had a brief technical situation. Colton's computer crapped out, so regrettably, Colton had to bow out on this one. But we're gonna soldier on and continue talking about Predator. If he figures out the situation, he'll jump back in. If not, we'll see him next week. So sorry, Colton. Or will we?
Has he been predatored?
200 already feels cursed. You know what? We're gonna keep going.
This is always a thing when we do our like big episodes.
I know
people just go down.
Yeah, I'm waiting for like a full blown fucking fire for the 300. Back to, I believe we were talking about John Tiernan. Yeah. So Nomads, it was the only film he'd done before this. I guess Joel Silver enjoyed Nomads, so he brought McTiernan on to direct Predator, and this would be such a hit, it would give McTiernan something to brag about, and he would follow this with Die Hard, which he would then follow with The Hunt for Red October, Last Action Hero, Die Hard with a Vengeance, and The Thomas Crown Affair, as well as a few duds like Medicine Man, The 13th Warrior, Basic, and the remake of Rollerball. So not flawless, but when he hit, he fucking hit.
I was like, what some heavy hits he had. Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, just to have Predator and Die Hard as your like back to back. I mean, that's all you need, but he kept turning them out. I'm impressed.
Yeah, I did not know he did both Predator and Die Hard and Red October, and so I was really like, this guy is the action guy, at least for a while.
Yeah,
for a while.
For a while,
until he would end up serving 10 months in prison for lying to the FBI about his involvement in a wiretapping scandal. He's since been released, but has not made a movie since 2003. So I think he's just done with everything. He said he hadn't hired this PI, but he had hired this PI, and he lied to the FBI, and they were like, well, we're going to make an example out of you. And they sent him up the river.
Well,
yeah, that's John McTiernan.
Well, when he was directing, and he was having those hits in the 80s and 90s, good for him. Those are seriously like Die Hard, Predator, Die Hard with Vengeance, Last Action Hero. Like, goddamn, man.
Yeah. I mean, Predator and Die Hard alone, I would have presented as evidence at his trial for like, we can't lock this man away. He's an artist. We need him.
Man knows how to direct action, goddammit.
Who hasn't lied to authority once or twice?
Yeah, it's just the FBI.
What is that, like South Park episode when they have to like find a director? What a twist. No, we don't need a twist, M. Night. We need more.
I love that they use that to fuck with Michael Bay. You know how much I love fucking with Michael Bay.
Yeah. Well, that and then the whole the Mel Gibson one. Say what you will about how crazy he is, but god damn it, the man knows story.
Oh, beautiful. Here's some fun fact. I love this story. Jean-Claude Van Damme was originally cast as the Predator. With the intention was, he's a physical action star. He would use his martial arts skills to make the Predator an agile kind of space ninja. Problem is, Jean-Claude Van Damme is 5'9", and Arnold Schwarzenegger, Carl Weathers, and Jesse Ventura are not. They're quite large gentlemen. In the 80s, they were even bigger. So when you've got 3 hulking bodybuilding dudes versus a thin 5'9" alien, it's not a very exciting movie.
No. Well, that, and if reports are to be true, apparently Mr. Van Damme was quite whiny in the suit. And the only reason I still don't believe those is because I've heard he's not exactly the most amazing human being to work with. So I've heard a lot of not great stories about good old Van Damme.
Yeah, it turns out like the lesser you like the lower you are on the action star totem pole, the more of a dick you are. That seems to be what it is.
Unless you're Chuck Norris, apparently. Like, no one has anything bad to say about Chuck Norris.
Well, because they're fucking terrified too. I wouldn't say anything bad about Chuck Norris. Remember that whole like fad where like Chuck Norris was like a living god. Remember all that shit?
Yeah. I loved how he played into it. He has zero issues playing into it at all. He's like, yeah, I'm Chuck Norris.
He made a joke in Expendables 2 about like, was bit by a cobra, then the cobra died. Like, Jesus Christ.
Dude, what a fucking Expendables 2 was so fucking good. And then they followed it up with a third movie. Fuck you, Expendables franchise. God damn it.
Yeah.
You had Van Damme as the villain. You had them fully embracing all their various action stardom. And then they're like, Expendables 3, we got Mel Gibson, clearly not trying. And a bunch of young actors you don't care about.
I fell asleep when I saw Expendables 3. I don't remember it at all.
Oh, and PG-13. Let's not forget that. PG fucking 13.
I would have loved to see Van Damme do a split kick though against the alien.
He doesn't too.
Well,
really?
in Expendables 2, not Predator.
No, sorry. Oh
no, in Predator. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that would be cool if he did in Predator though.
Have you ever seen test footage of the original design of the Predator?
Yeah, of course I have.
Yeah, it's like a bug, like a weird bug man, and he's like running through the jungle. He's like, "Are you kidding me?"
Bug/lot. I'm so glad they end up ditching that in favor of what they do have, because what we have, probably one of the most badass creature designs in film history, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, when we get to Filmgazm Facts, we're going to get into how that design came about, and it's a really just chance. But obviously Jean-Claude they wanted a physically more imposing man. The creature had to look more threatening. You got to have a creature that looks like it could throw Arnold around like a rag doll. And 5'9" Van Damme in a lobster suit was not the call. Just thankfully they didn't get too far into filming before somebody was like, this isn't going to work, right?
So I don't know, like Schwarzenegger looking at Van Damme like he's a puny peasant as he's just chomping on that cigar.
Smart money's on Dutch, taking all bets. And Van Damme constantly complained about the suit being too hot, causing him to pass out. He also had reservations about, only appearing on camera in the suit. He's like, no one's going to recognize me. I want to be recognized. And he was complaining but in a situation where they literally could get anyone else.
Yes. And also with all the other craziness that happened on that set, filming in a fucking tropical jungle, I'm sure they're sitting going like, dude, shut up. You're not the only one having fucking issues right now.
Bugs, snakes, storms, dysentery, all of that shit happened while they were filming this, as well as insane stunts, testosterone fights, and a complaining Van Damme.
Honestly, if you pay attention to Schwarzenegger, he gets skinnier as the movie progresses, and it's not because he's watching his food intake.
Actually, everyone on set got dysentery except Arnold and McTiernan because they weren't drinking the water; they were drinking their own water. But everyone else got really fucked up.
I've been on deployments in foreign countries, like I've been to India. They will tell you off the bat, don't drink the water. You just don't want, because they do not clean it the way we do.
Yeah. So they ended up changing, everyone was like, we don't like the design. We don't like Van Damme. It's not intimidating. It's not scary. Let's scrap it. Let's start from scratch. So they fired Van Damme. They redesigned the Predator. They hired Kevin Peter Hall, 7'2" Kevin Peter Hall, who had just finished work as playing Harry the Bigfoot in Harry and the Hendersons. And there wasn't a lot added to his height. He's just naturally tall as fuck. So he's the guy. He played Predator in the first and second movies.
No, I will say that shitting on Van Damme right now, for sure about him being like complaining, but I think was it Kevin Hall? He definitely deserves his flowers for this body work of this, because it's so imposing. And I mean, for even like the camouflage things, it really builds up, and then you finally, one of those things is like you can't reveal like the whole monster too much or too soon. It kind of, but the payoff is there with this movie. And then when you do see him, it's so imposing. And then the practical effects of the movie are so fucking good that they hold up to this day.
Yep. That's Stan the Man Winston right there. Maybe the greatest VFX artist of all time.
Stan the Man Winston.
Damn right.
Okay.
Want to give? I love Stan Winston. I got mad respect for this guy.
No, Stan Winston's awesome. And no, Kevin Peter Hall, yeah, he doesn't get talked about enough for his work in the first two Predator movies. But he's really, and again, it kind of goes back to what we've always talked about with like, to an extent, with like, the Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees talk we've had about actors that are covered in whatever, whether it be a costume, or in this case, a bunch of prosthetics, and they have to emote much differently. And again, people being people, they don't consider art. It's the same thing when you see like certain metal bands like Slipknot or Kiss that get considered less than they go on stage looking the way they do. Cooper Wright for the longest time, but it's like they're in the acting side of it. He's doing everything he can to show you how physically imposing this fucking Predator is. To the point that like I watched an interview for the guy playing the new, I forget his name right now, but playing the Predator and the new one coming out, Prey. And he talked about how he would how he did his homework. He watched how the Predator was portrayed in this film, I know what to do in this one, but also keeping in mind that this is an early Predator. This is not the one you saw in the movie. So what he would do to kind of add his take to it, add a little bit of flavor to it. And based off the trailers, like, I think he's going to crush it as the fucking Predator for this movie. Like, this Predator looks like it's going to fucking take fucking names. It's going to kick ass and chew bubblegum. It's all out bubblegum.
Well, Kevin Peter Hall was the template. He was the first Predator. I think is one of the best, monster actors ever. Just what he does with the Predator, the way he holds himself, the way he, is not quite human, but also learning from them and taking what he's learned and putting that into his own performance. It's really brilliant. And it's a damn shame we lost him so early. He was 35 when he died. Unfortunately he had AIDS. And he died in 91. So we lost Kevin Peter Hall way too damn early. I think Predator 2 was his last movie. But his legacy, I mean, just, these two Predators and Harry and the Hendersons, this guy was amazing at acting through costume. And just his height, I mean, Jesus Christ. 7'2". I can't imagine. I've never met anybody that tall, not even close. I can't physically like imagine how tall that must be. It's crazy to me.
Fucking huge.
Yeah. Unreal.
No, I think, the guys behind the mask definitely, I feel like nowadays they're starting to get more recognized, like with Doug Jones, like at least people are recognizing sort of everything that he's been in. But no, it's awesome to look back and actually see the contributions that these people played and trying to kind of give them their flowers with that, because, they definitely do not get the credit they deserve.
Yeah. Well, we try very, very hard to make sure they get credit here. We like pointing out their performances and their success because, like you said, they get overlooked quite often. So they got Kevin Peter Hall. He's the new Predator. As for the rest of the cast, we got action superstar Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was the first person to be cast playing team leader Major Alan Dutch Schaefer. We just dug into him big time a few episodes ago when we talked about the Terminator. He's a box office megastar, former governor of California, former Mr. Universe, and an inspiration to millions. And also Chris Pratt's father-in-law, which just makes me laugh.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. I don't think he smoked cigars before he became family to Arnold Schwarzenegger, but he certainly does now.
It's like a rite of passage. You have to smoke cigars for Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
I am looking forward to seeing what his son is going to do. I hope his son, good old Patrick Schwarzenegger, can break out of the shadow. I know Scott Eastwood has been kind of having some issues trying to break out of, obviously, just being the son of Clint Eastwood. But I hope his son breaks. I know his son Patrick Schwarzenegger is going to be on that upcoming Boys spinoff that they're developing. And I remember he made a comment that he actually showed some footage to his dad, to go to Arnold, and Arnie was like, "What the fuck are you filming?"
Oh man,
I imagine that conversation just between. Imagine your dad being Arnold. But yeah, I can just like imagine that conversation with anything like Arnold watching The Boys. Like, oh my god!
At the very least, if like you'd be in amazing shape if your father was Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like he would not. There's no way in hell he would let his kids be fat.
He has one kid. Okay, funny enough, right? Not to body shame anybody, but he has one son that's like super out of shape, and then another son that's like completely.
Is it what the kid he had with the maid? How does he look?
I think he's the out of shape one.
All right, we're heading down a dangerously insulting rabbit hole here. I think the audience knows where we're going.
Yeah, he definitely, the Arnold, the Schwarzenegger kid definitely gets slandered.
Oh man, if you want to see Patrick Schwarzenegger deliver a really slimy performance, watch the movie Moxie.
Mhm.
He plays a rapist, like captain of the football team rapist, who's just so smug about it. You fucking hate him in that movie. That's all I can really recall at the moment. But I'm glad he's kind of branching out, trying to get out of Dad's shadow. Probably maybe take a stage name would be a good start.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I just feel bad for some of these, like I know Riot Russell. He's finally, I feel like finally kind of getting out of that and becoming much more recognized outside of being like Kurt Russell's son. But I feel bad for these guys sometimes because it's like obviously they're not doing it to emulate their fathers. They're pursuing this career because they're just as interested in it as like their parents were, and I know how that has to suck when you have a dad like Kurt Russell or Schwarzenegger or Clint Eastwood. Like they are just giants, titans of Hollywood. People know around the world their name, what they've contributed to cinema. And now here's the son, and they're probably constantly getting compared to by casting directors and stuff like that. And it's just a hard battle. And I always feel happy when like these guys can break out of it and actually kind of forge their own path and be successful. Like Russell, being on record saying I won't do an Escape from New York remakes. I don't want to replicate my dad's movies. I respect that. That's awesome. Like, oh yeah, do your own thing, man.
One of the best examples of that for me is Jared Harris, Richard Harris's son, who like fans wanted him to play Dumbledore in the Fantastic Beasts movies, and he was like, "I'm not doing that. That was my father's role. I'm not my father." And he's become a very talented actor in his own right. I love him as Moriarty in Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows. He was great in Mad Men. He's great. He's his own guy. You can see Richard in there, but it's not. He's his own man. Yeah. And it is tough to do that, especially when your parent is such a titan of cinema.
No, I was gonna say to that list, John David Washington for sure. I think he kind of was under the radar for a lot of when his come up. People didn't put the connections right away that hey, that's Denzel's son. So I think he loved that he at least made the attempt that like I'm gonna make my own name. Yeah, and I think a big thing, especially like I've seen on like Twitter and like different threads or even TikToks of like Nepo babies that they love to be called and stuff. Like everyone's got connections. It's just that's how Hollywood is. Occasionally people are going to make the big break, but it's very still much a family business. And some of them rightfully, don't deserve their credit, but no, I think the list that we named, they're really, they can deserve their own recognition aside from that shadow.
Yeah, I mean that initial bump. I mean, it's going to help if you're Arnold Schwarzenegger's son, if you're Jared Harris. I mean, if you're Richard Harris's son, if you're Denzel's son, it's going to help. But Hollywood, that whole industry is all about who you know. If it's your parents, if it's an uncle, if it's some guy that your dad once sold a script to, all of that helps establish a career. And what you do from there is yours.
Yeah, as I say, the continued success is all about how you are at the box office or at the TV numbers if you want to do TV. And that's why, and actually this came out not just because we're talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger, because earlier today I was reading like a top 10 who could take over the role of Wolverine, right? And one of these was Scott Eastwood, and even I was like, you know what? I think he could do it. I was like, this guy, he's been really trying to get out of his Clint Eastwood shadow. He's not a bad actor. Actually, he was one of the few things I liked about Wrath of Man, his like more crazy psychotic turn he played in that movie. And he has the build for it. He's young enough. I'm like, yeah, you know what? Let give him a chance. Let's see how he does. It's like I root for these guys that yes, obviously it's who they know, and actually it's that boost. But at the end of the day, if they're not getting work or people aren't paying to see them, like they can't continue. You know what I mean? Like that's the big thing that people forget. Like they have to have continued success to keep going.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Arnold absolutely kills it in this movie, and he looks incredible. I totally believe that he's the head of a Black Ops rescue team.
I love his intro when like everyone in that chopper, I'll say like a chopper, pops out, except him. He has his sunglasses on, fucking cigar in his mouth. Which quick side note, this is just me having actually been in a helicopter myself, being in the Navy. No way in hell, by the way, in case anyone's running, would you be in a helicopter without hearing protection at all. those things, even inside, are loud. Some of the loudest shit you will hear in your life. It's double hearing protection. Even in the helicopter and the talk, how they yell. I've seen the guys, they have their little mouthpieces like right up to their lips. It's insanely loud.
I also feel like you probably wouldn't be allowed to smoke in there.
No. Maybe in the 80s. It was a lawless wasteland in the 80s, but
that is true. That is
definitely true. I don't think so. I feel like you probably wouldn't. There's too much damage.
I think you're a Black Ops, you deserve at least one stogie.
He always looks like he's coming back from a successful mission. I love their constant, like, hey, remember Libya? Oh, I'm trying to forget it. Like, just the mission you've been through. I love all the nods to that.
Oh, yeah. Well, in all fairness, I could believe that they would let him smoke because most branches, I can tell you right now, like, like me being regular Navy, they're so, like, uptight about, I haven't shaved in a fucking day or something about all the Grammy standards stuff. But, man, you see those Navy SEALs? They got long hair. They got beards. They'll be shirtless. Yeah. They're wearing, like, their boots and, like their gym shorts, and that's it. And no one says a fucking word to them. Why? Because they're SEALs and they will kill you. You don't want to fuck with them. So I can believe that they're like, special forces, we'll leave it alone.
No, funny you bring up SEALs because, that's one thing with the body that he often gets in trouble for, or at least he has in the past, because he was like Navy in Vietnam, like the precursor to SEALs, and he's gotten like plenty of heat from like someone called them out basically saying like, oh, you weren't officially a SEAL, you're just a precursor, so you don't deserve like the title, or like you didn't go through what we went through type of stuff.
God.
I
mean, he has something to say about it. It's good old body.
Yeah. Next up, we got Carl Weathers, who plays CIA operative Dylan, a real son of a bitch.
The other half of the handshake that fucking shook the ward.
Yeah. I always forget how fucking shredded Carl Weathers was in the 80s.
Yeah.
I mean, good God.
Dylan, you son of a bitch.
And he is. He's a complete rat bastard who lies to them the whole time, but does get a little bit of redemption right before Predator, sticks him.
Yeah.
But I love this character. He's known Weathers is known mostly for his role as Apollo Creed in the first 4 Rocky films. He was also in Happy Gilmore, Action Jackson, and the Star Wars series The Mandalorian as bounty hunter Greef Karga. He's had a bit of a nice career resurgence because of that show. And he's great. I've always loved Carl Weathers.
Yeah. One of my favorite shows is Arrested Development, and I love Carl Weathers as Carl Weathers because it's so believable that, hey, that's Carl Weathers.
Baby, you got a stew going. It's so good. Have you seen Arrested Development, Caleb?
No, I haven't.
Carl Weathers plays a fictionalized version of himself who is an acting coach to David Cross's character who can't act, but Carl Weathers is clearly broke the whole time and is giving like thrifty advice, like not acting advice, but like advice on how to save money. Like somebody's going to throw out a chicken bone and he's like, whoa, don't throw that out. Some potatoes, some carrots, some broth. You got a stew going. It's great.
I love when actors do shit like that. Like I know you weren't a fan of on Holliston, Tony Todd's in an episode, but he like plays himself as a complete prick and asshole, and it's the best. Oh my God. Like he purposely tries to crash at their place, hits on their women. Like it's so funny.
Yeah, I always love when actors play exaggerated versions of themselves. It's one of my favorite things. Carl Weathers as Dylan is just, your typical CIA need to know asshole.
Yeah. You know what? What I love about, just going back to that, I can't stop talking about that handshake scene now because it's just so prominent. The way the camera just zooms in on their rip roaring muscles, and then Schwarzenegger, they're both jacked to shit. But somehow Schwarzenegger, what's wrong, Dylan? You got you pushing too many pencils? I'm like, he's so jacked. That is not a man that pushes pencils.
Yeah, it's like as soon as their biceps meet, it's like somewhere an earthquake happened. It's fucking wild. Yeah. Awesome. You almost expect the body to walk in and be like, I want some of that.
Cavity Colors, on the day we're recording, they just released their 35th anniversary collection of Predator apparel, and one of their shirts has the shot of the handshake with the line, Dylan, you son of a bitch, on it. I was like, I might have to buy this. It's too tempting.
You need to get that shirt. I'm rocking Predator right now. I got a skull with a nice quote, I ain't got time to bleed. So
bleeding, man, I ain't got time to bleed.
I love that later on he has a patch, like a bandage on his arm, which tells me that he had plenty of time to bleed.
Yeah.
Anyway, Carl Weathers.
Let's calm down, Jesse the Body. We'll get some in a minute.
Yeah, sooner than you think. Jesse the Body Ventura plays Blaine Cooper, heavy gunner, who's literally holding a minigun that was ripped off a helicopter the whole time. And that same prop would later be used in Terminator 2. Old Painless is the same gun that Arnold uses to scare the cops.
I didn't know that. Also, don't forget his other title in this movie. That is Sexual Tyrannosaurus.
I was watching. You guys ever watch Riff Tracks?
Yeah. It's like the guys who did the original run of the Science Theater 3000. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
I can English.
They're not as funny, Riff Tracks, because they go after like good movies, which it's hard to mock good movies. It's like it doesn't feel right.
Usually you get sucked into it. You're like, oh god damn it, I'm really liking this.
But they did Predator, and when Blaine gets blasted apart, they did have one good gem of a joke, which was, I guess that's how the sexual Tyrannosaurus went extinct.
Oh my god. You have to think that chewing tobacco sales definitely went up after that line. He has another line of that helicopter that I can't repeat on the air, unfortunately, but it's just just the delivery is so fucking funny to me.
Bunch of slack jawed around here.
Yeah. No, if you were to show this, like taking this movie and putting it into 2022 definitely would not fly. But it's funny to see, imagine like just showing people who've never seen this before, and that's like one of the opening scenes.
Well, I've always viewed this movie as Blaine and Mac are 100% in a relationship.
Yes. Okay. I'm glad that you brought that up because I love the bromance they have. And he's like, we're under the same moon. Like, that's not just a homie. That's
well, Blaine has, he's constantly being very, homophobic. Mac, when Blaine dies, Mac is very much like, he lost the one person who meant everything to him. Like there's something there that they're like, when they're not killing gorillas, they're, sipping Mai Tais in Fiji together. Like this is, I'm glad I'm not the only one who sees that.
It could be there, but it's just hidden under so much testosterone and machismo.
It is. I mean, Jesus Christ.
I will say, I know obviously we can't repeat that word, but I won't lie. When I was watching this last night on my new pristine 4K edition, I definitely was repeating the line as he was saying it. It seared in my brain. There's so many lines though I was just repeating as soon as they came up in the movie. I just said out loud to myself.
I don't want to sound like I have nothing but love in my heart for everyone who's not an asshole. That's the only group of people I don't like. Yes. So, but every time I hear that word in a certain context, it's the funniest shit I've ever heard in my life. And you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Predator counts. I don't know why. It's just because you don't expect it. You don't expect to hear that word anymore, thankfully, because we've mostly erased it.
Right. It's
out of nowhere shouting at a group of soldiers because they didn't want your chewing tobacco. It's like, Jesus.
Yeah. And it's like the only time. It's the only time they say it too. And it's actually probably the only now offensive term of dialogue they use in this movie where you're like, I came out and everything else you can probably get away with in the movie, honestly.
Well, they got, Hawkins' constant, jokes about his girlfriend's giant pussy. That probably hasn't aged too well either.
I mean, I think that's
also, they're just terrible fucking jokes.
Yeah. And also, like, look, I'm just saying this as someone who is military.
I know.
Military is very on PC with joking. Like, it's almost insane how on PC with joking they are. So it only makes sense that in the 80s, spec op guys would say these kind of things. Not saying it's okay. It just makes sense.
Yeah. I do love
I feel like you can definitely. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
You definitely can imagine. I think that line sticks out to me because you definitely can imagine. Like I can hear Jesse Ventura saying that like tomorrow, and you know what I mean. Like that's just the personality he has. He's so off the chain, like off the rails. Like, this guy has no the life that he's lived. Bodyguard for the Stones. Like this guy has lived a life, so I can definitely imagine him saying some out of pocket shit like that, like tomorrow. Yeah.
This is true. Yeah.
Well, let's talk a bit about his backstory. Ventura was a professional wrestler turned part-time actor who appeared in such films as The Running Man, as I believe his name was like Captain Freedom. He was a gladiator who's like retired, but he's like, I'm the best there ever was, and I'm coming after you. It's a terrible movie.
Also with Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, they became buddies and rivals because one of them like had slightly bigger arms than the other, and that just wouldn't fly. He's also in Demolition Man, Major League 2, Batman and Robin briefly, which I always forget. He's the guard that Poison Ivy kills with a poison kiss.
That's right. I forget that every time.
Yeah. He's always like, you can't live outside the cold zone. Every time I hear that, I'm like, that's Jesse Ventura. It's a very distinct voice. He served as
He's very loud, man. He talks loud.
Extremely. Yeah.
No, in my head, I was like a fan of professional wrestling. No, in my head, he's the voice of like the 80s wrestling. Because he was the color commentator. But yeah, it's just like cemented. And so you hear him in this movie and drop a F-bomb like that. It's just yeah. I do love, but everything else he says is fucking gold. Old Painless is waiting and things like that. Like, I wouldn't want to fuck with this guy ever. No.
Oh no. And obviously, he has one of the most immortal from the movie with the "I ain't got time to bleed." It's like everyone knows that line. Everyone knows that fucking line.
Ventura was the governor of Minnesota from 1999 to 2003. After sneaking in there as a third-party candidate, defeating the Democrat and Republican candidates to become the fucking celebrity governor.
You love to see it. That's the Constitution at work.
Jesse Ventura, man, he is an enigma of the entertainment industry. He really is.
Today, he's known, I would say, mostly for his TV show Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura, which ran for 3 seasons. He's become a big conspiracy guy. Some right wing, some left wing. He kind of dabbles.
I remember seeing that advertised, and that was actually one of the things that led to me seeing Predator with my dad. Because he was like, Jesse Ventura, because it was advertised one day. He's like, what the fuck? And I was like, what's he doing on this show? And then, eventually that led to like, Predator and my dad being like, yeah, this one he was cool.
I saw a t-shirt once. I really wish I'd gotten. It was a T-Rex with Blaine's hat and a minigun.
He will forever be the sexual Tyrannosaurus because
you got to be confident through the fucking roof to refer to yourself as a sexual Tyrannosaurus. Beautiful. You got to love it. How do you not respect that?
Oh, he's one of my favorite characters in this movie. Like, hands down, he is fucking great.
I wish I had anybody want to avenge my death as fiercely as Mac does. Like, wants to avenge Blaine.
He shot down a fucking section of the forest. I'm like, Jesus Christ, guys. 200
rounds of a minigun into the jungle, not to mention what everyone else was shooting in there. And he's, like pressing a razor up to his face, like, screaming the Little Richard lyrics into the jungle. He's lost his fucking mind.
Dude, that scene, man, like, look, they definitely didn't kill the Predator, obviously, but they killed a lot of other animals native to that area. There's a lot of dead animals there.
Yeah.
I wonder how that with the original look, like it's more bug-like. I wonder if that played, because before you really see the Predator, the first thing he does is with the scorpion and like kind of stabs him. He's like looking at it. I wonder if that would have been tied into it.
I love that Mac does get him in the leg, and the Predator's like got to take a breather and like patch himself up, and he's just like, God damn, fucking. I wonder if that's like the equivalent of like, hunting deer, and one of them like gets their antlers in your fucking leg, and you're just like, didn't expect that. These things aren't supposed to fight back.
I always think of the fucking robot chicken skit now, and I'm like, don't kill the human, don't kill me. What's wrong with you, man?
The hippie Predator, boo!
Yeah, yeah.
That was great. Oh, funny.
Humans are our friends.
Next up, we got Elpidia Carrillo, who plays Anna, an insurgent who becomes an ally. She was also in Salvador, Solaris, 7 Pounds, The Tax Collector, and the TV series Mayans MC, which I haven't seen yet. I was a big Sons of Anarchy fan. I keep meaning to check out this show. And I like her a lot. I like that she's just fucking with them. She speaks English the whole time. And she's very much like, you know, a villain in the, you know, in these human conflicts. But then once the Predator shows up, she's like, okay, these guys are the only way I'm getting out of this alive. So I'll stick with them.
Yeah, I like how, you know, she works so hard to get away from them, and then as soon as the Predator makes the first kill of the movie, we'll get to that interesting casting choice for anyone who knows their film history and history of this franchise. But after that, she's like, okay, I'm going to stop trying to run away and stick with them because they're the only thing keeping me safe from this goddamn thing.
Well, I also like the kind of mutual respect that grows between her and Dutch, where it's not like a romantic thing. It's just like, you know, survivor's interest or something. And I do like that a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, for 87, not that this is anything close to a woke movie, or does it need to be, but I will say that they don't like when you look back at films like this and it's so like hyper masculine, that's like one good thing to see is like, okay, they didn't completely like just exoticize this kind of like not love interest, but just kind of damsel in distress kind of character. And also, like, I feel like Mac and Dylan are like on pretty, like, everyone's on pretty even playing fields. You see, like, it's like, yeah, they're very much like or military dudes that are just like all equals, just kind of.
I did read that the original plan for Mac and Blaine was they were going to be white supremacists who really didn't like taking orders from Dylan. But then when they cast Bill Duke as Mac, that went away. But there's still some animosity there, like Blaine spitting on Dylan's shoe in the helicopter and Mac being like, I don't care who you were back in the world. You give away our position, I'm going to kill you. Like, that's still there, but now it's in a much different context.
Yeah. Now it's just because he's CIA and, you know.
Yeah, now he's just a prick who's misleading them.
Yeah. I do like that. Like, when you mentioned the woke thing, I was going to say there's no movie in hell that if you cast Jessica Body Ventura that it's going to be even remotely woke.
Yeah.
Or PC or anything. The moment you cast them, that goes out the fucking window.
Yep.
Oh boy. Next up, we got Bill Duke, who plays Sergeant Mac Elliott. He was also in Commando, American Gigolo, Menace to Society, Payback, Red Dragon, X-Men The Last Stand, and Mandy. He also directed Deep Cover and Sister Act 2, Back in the Habit, as well as a lot of TV and several documentaries. So he's a very bit of a Renaissance man, Bill Duke. He also has a foundation that brings like quality, what he calls edutainment to people. He's a very well-rounded individual. I have a lot of respect for Bill Duke.
Oh, I've always loved Bill Duke. I was about to say, you better not forget Mandy in that list, because I freaked the fuck out when I watched Mandy the first time. I was like, holy shit, it's Bill Duke. It's Bill goddamn Duke. And then and the way he talks to me, I'm like, he's pretty much playing the same character. Yes. There's something out there, man, in the jungle. And I'm like, oh my God, he's playing fucking Mac right now.
He was in an episode of Lost. I remember I was watching Lost. It was a Sawyer episode when he was in a jail. He was in prison in Georgia, I think. And Bill Duke was the warden. And I was like, oh shit. Bill Duke, prison warden, sign me up.
He does that. He popped up in Black Lightning on the CW show, which, by the way, is Arrowverse coming to an end as of was announced today. Flash got confirmed for season 9 being the final season. But yeah, he popped up in that as like the head of this very shady, you know, agency, and it was Bill Duke, so he crushed it. He was great.
Yeah, I wanted to see Deep Cover for years. Like, I didn't know he directed it till I was doing this research, but it's Lawrence Fishburne and Jeff Goldblum and like an undercover cop in a drug ring thing. I love the song that Dre and Snoop did. So Deep Cover's been on my list for a very long time. And now that I know Bill Duke directed it, it just went up.
Oh yeah, Bill Duke is the fucking man. Like, what he pops up in, obviously here, I don't know if he's playing the one that's clearly snapped the most, and he sells it. I mean, you're like, dude, you need to calm down. And then like how he kills that pig or the wild boar. I should say, I don't want to offend anyone by saying pig, wild boar. the more annoying fucking breed of pig, if you want to put it like that. But he kills them. They're like messing with him. He's just like, fuck you.
As much as I do love the final confrontation between Arnold and the Predator, how cool would it have been if they'd subverted expectations and Arnold had gotten his head blown out and the final confrontation is between Mac and the Predator?
I mean, I'd still watch it. But that head blown out. What a nerd. I love how this film just absolutely, especially in 80s action films in general, did this. It embraces that R rating when it's violent. It's gore. Like, it is horror movie level gore when these guys are getting fucking killed. Like, seeing the blood just fly into the camera after he gets fucking laser blasted. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. Well, this thing is like a perfect Long Island iced tea of action, horror, and sci-fi, and some comedy, just perfectly layered with the right amount of each to make this perfect movie.
Are you saying
you chose the shittiest drink to elude Predator too, by the way?
Whoa.
I hate Long Island's, but
I enjoy a good Long Island iced tea. Let's calm down.
No, but that is like, yeah.
Thank you for the support, Caleb. I appreciate it.
Welcome. I'll give you that one because I actually do like a Long Island iced tea myself.
It was the first cocktail that popped into my head. God damn it.
No, that was really good though.
No, I like how you say comedy. So are you saying you laughed at the jokes about his girlfriend's pussy so much?
Yeah, well, I laugh more at Billy's insanely huge laugh at the joke.
Oh yeah.
It's like just it wasn't that funny, man. But I appreciate the props. That and sexual Tyrannosaurus always makes me laugh. But yeah, there's some moments in here that like when Arnold throws the machete at the guy and goes stick around. You chuckle.
Yeah, I love how they sneak those in, the little like run-liners Arnold does in that whole sequence of like the stick around, and there's some other stuff he says that's really funny.
Knock knock.
Yeah, no, the kind of as some shitty as Batman and Robin is, one of the saving graces for me is like the corny one-liners,
Thank
from
you.
Arnold. Because if you enjoy it for camp, this is not a good Batman movie, but if you look for it for camp and corny one-liners, it is the movie.
I
love hearing everybody talk about their time on that movie as it was dreadful. I hated doing this cartoon movie. It almost destroyed my career. And then Arnold's like, I had a great time. I got to be a Batman villain. I got to joke. I had a frozen cigar. I made $20 million. Great time.
Yeah, sort of. And look, I'll stand by it. That movie's terrible, but dear God, Schwarzenegger knew what he signed up for.
Yes.
And he is the only one apparently in on this whole joke and is having a hell of a time just spouting off ice puns for 2 goddamn hours.
He showed up and kicked all sorts of ice. It was a great time for him.
I hate when they interrupt the movie.
I still love that at every DC film that Draft House shows, they show that clip beforehand of Mr. Freeze blasting the dude and being like, I hate when people talk during the movie. Every single DC movie I've ever seen at Draft House.
God, dude, I stand by it, man. Schwarzenegger knew. He was like, I know what to do for this movie.
Yeah, he's like one of the few actors who can do a movie entirely out of puns, and I don't bat an eye.
Yeah, no one did.
I
would argue he's the only one in that movie that did not have their career affected at all.
At all. Yeah, nobody. Clooney had to make some amends. Chris O'Donnell and Alicia Silverstone disappeared. Uma Thurman still had Tarantino, but that was about it. Arnold was fine.
Yeah, he just went on and did more fucking movies in the 90s.
He followed it with like fucking Eraser and End of Days. Nothing ever hurt his career.
No. The only thing that hurt his career is that he literally started to become governor. Like that's what did it. He could have easily kept going probably for a long time.
And then what happens as soon as he leaves office? He does The Last Stand, Expendables 3, Escape Plan. He just went right back into it.
Yeah, did not stop. You know what? Most of those films are actually not bad.
Yeah, his post, governor career hasn't been like amazing, but some decent flicks.
Yeah, I remember I liked Last Stand. Pairing him up with Johnny Knoxville, I was like, okay.
Escape Plan, Arnold and Stallone finally burying the hatchet and doing a kind of a buddy prison break movie. I liked it.
Yeah, I liked it. I didn't think we need to have like 3 or 4 more films with Stallone in it, but
I don't know what happened there, but I'll take what I can get. Next up, we got Sonny Landum, who plays Billy Soul, the tracker. He was also in The Warriors, 48 Hours, Lockup, Poltergeist, and Gloria. He died in 2017 at 76 years old from congestive heart failure. And apparently he was a fucking psycho. And we're going to get to that in the trivia towards the end.
Oh, I was about to say with the bodyguards they had to hire.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that later.
Okay. Not for the reasons you're thinking. Oh.
No. But Billy, I like the character of just like he knows what's going on from the very beginning. He's just afraid to talk about it. And
I like how it's implied that he doesn't really talk a lot to begin with. Like he's kind of like the one member of the team that even they're kind of scared of. Like even Dutch kind of approaches him like, "Hey, buddy, you good? Got a question?"
Yeah, he was my favorite. He was my favorite character growing up, or like first time watching this. And I really wish they would have gave him like, okay, this guy is so badass. Like, what did he do to earn that? Because this is a whole crew of badasses. So what makes Billy stand out? That he's just like, oh, there's no fucking tracks.
Yeah.
What makes him be that guy?
I love the line where Billy says like, "There's something out there and it scares me," and Pancho's like, "What are you talking about? You're not afraid of any man." He's like, "There's something out there and it ain't no man." And everyone kind of clams up. They're like, if Billy says that, something's going on.
Yeah. Well, and I wonder if this was probably intentional with the new one, but like, if you notice, he's Native American in the movie, and now with Prey, we're going heavy. Like, it is Native American, to the point where there's two versions of the film coming out: the one that's dubbed in Comanche, and the one that's done in English.
Really? That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah, when you select on Hulu, there's options to watch it in its original Comanche language or with English. They filmed it both ways.
Wow,
so
that's awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look it up, but I wonder if Billy was part of the inspiration to go the route they did with Prey.
Maybe that's why he was so aware of this thing. Maybe he'd heard stories from other tribes or something. Prey might be a direct prequel to Billy, which would be interesting.
It would be. We won't know. We won't get an idea till Friday. I know the review embargo finally lifts on the 3rd of this month, so we should at least be seeing what people are saying. I'm sure some jackass will hand out it because they always do that shit.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. Richard Chaves plays Jorge Pancho Ramirez, demolitions expert. I also love that everybody on this team has a purpose. He was also in Witness and the TV series War of the Worlds, but not a lot else.
Oh, and as far as I don't have purpose, it really feeds into like that. What I would say is probably the most realistic aspect of this film is that they are using what a Spec Ops team is supposed to be, which is everyone in that team in Spec Ops serves an overall purpose. They are a key component of that team.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they didn't have to do that. That's the thing. Like they could have just, said, here's a group of, nameless soldiers who are going to get killed by the Predator, and you only recognize 3 of them. But no, they gave us a team that had camaraderie, that you could tell had history together, that everyone had, a role here, and you get to see them operate when they take down the guerrilla camp. And then, you just you care about these guys when they start getting picked off. It's a really well done group of characters, well written.
Yeah. From what I heard, and Jesse Ventura definitely gives himself a lot of credit. And on the set of this movie, he talks about he's like quote to say that his muscles are bigger than Arnold, blah blah blah. But I do believe the part because he was actually in Vietnam and the precursor to the SEALs. I really do believe that he aided into that. Like, okay, well, this is how a real unit would walk. Like, this is how you would really do this. And so, it's cool that he had that sort of insider knowledge, I guess, since he was also in a jungle. But that's one aspect about the production of this movie I definitely do believe.
Oh, yeah. Jesse Ventura gives himself a lot of credit. That makes me fun. Finally, we got Shane Black as Hawkins, radio operator. Black would go on to direct Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, The Nice Guys, Iron Man 3, and The Predator. And frankly, I don't think he did a very good job. But
I've heard that was a lot of studio meddling. So what he had written and was planning to direct, from what I understand, was vastly different from the studio coming in and messing with the movie.
Well, I've noticed that when he's doing his own thing, it's great, but when he's in a franchise, it's not great. So I'm sure a lot of that's the studio, but also he's got a little bit's him. A drop.
Same studio though. I've heard those intense, and if you watching the Predator, I'm like, yeah, this was studio metal. Like something's just watching makes me go like, this is not a cohesive vision. Like someone stepped in behind this dude's back and did some shit to his movie.
Regardless, as Hawkins, he's our first victim, but also just kind of a jokey. He's the guy who's constantly joking about his girlfriend's giant vagina.
He wasn't even really supposed to, like, he was casted because he was one of the script writers.
Yeah, he polished the script up, but they also wanted him to be like the nerdy guy. He didn't want to wear those glasses. They're like, we need you to wear those glasses. And he came up with those jokes on his own.
And it's funny because, like, in a weird way, like, again, but it kind of works, and it really kind of is like the template of these, like, you know, spec ops type films in general. When you have like military and these groups of people, is that you wonder, you start going, how did he get in this, like, in this group? Because he's not nearly as big. He's clearly not trying to be as big as they are, as macho as they are, but like he's very useful behind everything. He gets the job done, and they deep down they like him, so they keep him around.
Yeah, he's the baby of the group. He's like, you know, you can tell he hasn't seen nearly as much shit as the rest of them. And I think, like, you know, they're all kind of like, Dutch feels protective of Hawkins. I can tell. There's times where you can kind of see that.
Yeah, like he's like, may not see as much, but he's our guy. You know, no one fucks with him but us, so yeah, keep him safe.
So Predator has an IMDb score of 7.8, Rotten Tomatoes score of 80%, grossed 98 million on a budget of only 15 million. Really good in the 80s. It was nominated for 1 Oscar, Best Visual Effects, which it lost to Inner Space, which I haven't seen, but I've heard is an interesting movie. You know Inner Space, guys?
Mm-mm.
The movie where, like, these people shrink down and they go into either Martin Short or Dennis Quaid, and like it's an adventure in the human body.
Mm-mm.
Apparently, the visual effects are really cool. It beat Predator.
Okay.
It started a huge sci-fi action franchise that continues to this day, with a 5th film coming out this Friday. So let's discuss some highlights of Predator. First thing I'd like to go into is Alan Silvestri's incredible score for this movie.
Oh yeah, the score is fucking fantastic.
It definitely is not the same 80s action movie without the score.
Oh no, that, you know, like that's fucking awesome.
Well, I like, it's like 80, it's just like the movie. It's like 80s action score, but mixed with just a tinge of like sci-fi horror to get you into like the type of movie you're watching.
Yeah. Alan Silvestri is one of the unsung heroes of movie music. You know, I don't think he's really gotten enough credit. I mean, you know, he's the guy who did the music for Back to the Future. He wrote the Avengers music. He's a incredibly talented film composer, and Predator might be my favorite of his.
Yeah. Predator's fucking great. Honestly, the music and even the sound effects, like the sound effects for the Predator, are like really fucking good.
Yeah, this should have been up for sound design, score, like makeup. Yeah, this should have been all over the map at the Oscars, but it's not the Oscars, you know, favorite genre. So
no, and they would not be caught dead nominating anything Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Who was in one scene I like, and I didn't realize it until I was watching it this time, was like just how well that helicopter scene we kind of like talked about, you know, obviously the one where we can't say for, you know, good reasons. It does a good job of establishing who these characters are. Like in that short amount of time, it's only like, I'd say 10 minutes or less of the film. It does a great job just establishing who everyone is, their role in the group, you know, and just it gets literally all the way kids to where, like, by the time it lands, you're in with these guys. You're like, yeah, I want to see what this gang can do. I'm invested in these characters already.
Yeah. I love the use of Little Richard's Long Tall Sally to kind of, you know, get us knowing these guys. It's a great song to kind of just put you in the mood of like, these guys bust balls all day long. They're just, you know, goofing around with each other. They're brothers, but they're also gonna, you know, fuck with one another. It's like, you know, they feel like brothers. You get that vibe immediately.
Yeah. I definitely think on the surface too, you could definitely get those guys that are just gonna like this movie just for because it's a cool action movie. But I think now looking on the scene, it's very ironic the choice of words that he uses when he's literally listening to Little Richard. It kind of was like, oh, there's like the duh, like, you know, very ironic of him to be this machismo sort of character. You know, these are definitely not idols, but they're definitely like, okay, the action heroes that you need for something like this.
Well, I've heard, like, there's a whole study of this film that it's a metaphor for like what toxic masculinity does, and how like Predator's killing these guys in accordance to like what their masculinity each means to them.
Yeah.
And that's really cool. I've seen the same thing with Alien and femininity. So I get why people like before AVP, like people pitted these guys against one another because like it's masculine versus feminine in a weird way. It's cool.
There's a deep philosophical look at that, which is actually really interesting, but also just the sheer fact that like in a way they're kind of similar, right? Like the Alien, they always talk about in that series is the perfect killing organism. It's the perfect species. Predator is a thing that lives its life off of being the ultimate predator, the ultimate killer, essentially. So it makes sense to take these two kind of like almost similar, but obviously vastly different in their own ways and say, let's try to pit them together. On that note, I will say this. Now that they're under the same mouse house, I hope to God Prey does good, that Alien show they're working on and FX does good, and that maybe, just maybe, boys, we get an R-rated revamp AVP. Because if you're trying, anyone who's all like, oh, it's Disney, blah, blah, like, again, 20th Century Studios is owned by Disney. They just don't put their name on it, so then we can get R-rated material. So Predator, yep, that's why Predator. Does that mean a Predator being a Disney princess?
What do y'all think of the assault on the gorilla compound where we get to see these guys in action?
Standout action scene. Yeah. I actually forgot until watching it now how great that action sequence is. It's just, it hits all the wickets you want out of your 80s action movie, explosions and then seemingly never getting hit, but taking everyone out with ease. Watching it in 4K, man, those flames really, they really pop. The flames and stuff like that color fucking popped on the 4K transfer. I was kind of impressed.
Awesome. That's nice.
Yeah, I didn't I totally agree. I think I didn't really catch the parallel between that scene and the end scene where it's Dutch alone versus the Predator, and like I kind of see it now in the rewatch of like at first like you establish these characters as the Predators. They're the pinnacle of like fitness, of military, martial arts, like everything that be encompassed. Like these guys are the warriors, and then in the movie, it's the one survivor who is like the complete opposite. Who's like, it really is like that parallel by the end of the movie that I didn't catch the first time.
Hell yeah, and that scene is just fucking awesome. It's and I love the whole story of like the CIA used Dutch's team to kill a group of Soviet-backed insurgents who were going to start some shit in Central America. And, Dutch feels betrayed because he's a rescue team. He was manipulated. And all that kind of just disappears when the Predator shows up. But I like that we've already got kind of a good, like, meaty plot here. And then Predator just shows up and fucks all that up.
Yeah. It's really like, like I said, this film does a great job of giving you just standard at the time, 80s action story with just hints here and there that something's amiss. With the only thing really kind of giving it away the most is the opening, which if you look, I don't know if you saw it you're looking it up. They actually, John McTiernan had zero idea they filmed that opening because he didn't film it. They added it later. Someone else added it from the studio, added that into the movie without telling him. So he was like, what? The fuck? This was not my opening.
I gotta say, we do not need the opening. Like, it's just to hammer home, like, hey, guess, like, in case you were wondering, it is an alien. It's like we kind of like we gathered that.
I had an idea, seeing what it looks like and what it can do, that it was not of this earth.
I hate movies that treat its audience like we're stupid.
Yeah, well, don't blame McTiernan. Apparently, he did not film that opening. His opening was what you see with the helicopters coming in and the Dylan, all that stuff. But it does a good job of just saying like this is your standard action movie, and then like I said, like you start seeing the Predator vision, things start kind of like, oh, okay, something's amiss, and like you said, it switches, but does it to the point where like, all that stuff about like, oh, you betrayed us kind of goes out the window, but because of how flawlessly they flip it to like the Predator hiding them and kind of show you like, well, it doesn't really matter because we have this much bigger issue. You just go with it. You're fine.
Yeah, it works so well because it's a good script. It's not just like abandoned entirely. There's still that animosity between the team and Dylan because of how this went down. And that just gets translated into the Predator story where Dylan realizes what's at stake here and what he's done and how it's his fault they're here. So he takes on the responsibility of like, try to make a run for it. I'll take this one.
Mm.
It's important to the story, but and I do like that it's kind of two movies pushed up against one another that mesh very well.
Yeah.
I've always loved when the Predator picks up the Scorpion, when you finally start realizing like what is like something really is hunting them. Like they're not crazy. There's not some, and also it's not human. Just looking at its hand, it's like, oh shit, this is something else. And him like, recording dialogue and, Mac's voice and Billy's laugh and all that. I love that whole bit, using that as like a bait and switch. So cool.
Yeah. I like the little snippets we get of the Predator and how they really savor the fucking full reveal.
You know who plays the voice of the Predator? Peter Cullen, aka Optimus Prime.
The fuck?
Yep.
That's awesome.
Pretty cool.
That's awesome.
He almost didn't do it. He had just done some he just had like a throat condition, and I guess that helped him get a little gravelly for the Predator. So he decided to do it.
Shit.
Yeah, pretty cool. So the first death we get is Hawkins, who gets sliced and dragged away, and they never find him. He's just dangling up in the trees, ripped open. Anna's the only witness, and she ain't talking.
Yeah. No, dude, I love how the Predator's so like vicious, and you see like the people hanging in the trees. You at one point see him rip the dude's spine out. Like this movie doesn't hold back showing you like how brutal the Predator is. It does not care about how you feel when it kills you.
Yeah. Well, I love that it establishes that by showing us like the Green Berets that he like killed without a trace, skinned them alive, and left their corpses as like a warning. Like these are Green Berets, and this thing fucked them up without leaving any evidence behind.
Yeah.
Like,
Green Beret is like the top of the top of the top when it comes to special forces. So taking them out, Jesus Christ. I would have turned back and be like, nope, I'm out. I don't like this.
No, it's very fitting that it's very fitting that Predator's a Mortal Kombat character, because it's like if you take some of the scenes in the gore that it's like, okay, this is like, that's his fatality. He's gonna skin you.
Oh yeah, it's cool, and I love the whole trophy thing. Like he takes skulls, he takes spines and skulls, he cleans them up. He's got his bag, then he goes home, and I'm assuming like puts them on the mantle. I wonder if this is like considered. Like, do you think Earth is considered like a dangerous place to hunt for a predator, or if this is like a quail preserve for them?
I feel like Crow Preserve, because they've done it quite a bit in like a lot of movies now. Like they just keep going back to like, God, this planet's awesome. They just keep overpopulating. There's so many people we can kill.
I do love that glimpse you get in Predator 2 of the Predator's trophy room, where it's like there's a xenomorph there, there's like a woolly mammoth, there's a Neanderthal, there's some nondescript alien creature. You get the scope of like how long he's been doing this and how far across the galaxy he's been doing this. Predator 2 is underrated as shit.
I think the franchise itself is one of the few that its lore gets actually added to in such a fun way. Because usually when they start adding to it, they're like, oh my God. Alien is probably a good example when they really tried going whatever route they went with Prometheus and Covenant with the Lord. And I was like, what's going on here? But with Predator, it's like, Predator 2 establishes more that, okay, they've been doing this for a long time. They come to Earth, they start off to hunt. Solid addition. It's just adds more badassness to it. And then with Predators, they then go, oh, sometimes they like to just capture us and take them to their planet, and then we're on their game preserve like fucking animals.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that we get to see more versions of like even the Predator we've met is low on the food chain in terms of Predator. Like those that they're being hunted too. Like that's the race that lives off hunting. And for all the wrong that the Predator did, the Uber Predator, what the fuck they call it, that thing was badass. Like there's one that even the Predator's like, oh fuck, we don't want to mess with that one. Yeah, but I feel like they just did that in Predators. Like it was just kind of lifted from that. So I was kind of bummed about that. Yeah, but look, I'm trying to put something positive on that damn movie. Okay, it's a movie where they use autism to fight a predator. Okay, fair enough. We're gonna get there. We're gonna talk about that. Next up, we got Blaine, who gets blasted from the back, right in front of his beloved. And Mac freaks the fuck out, just starts mowing down the jungle with old Painless. Everyone follows suit. And
the fuck, no one questions it. And then like when they do stop and Mac is still holding on to the trigger, Dutch just looks at him like, you wanna stop him there, bro? You wanna
yeah. And Predator, has to get Blaine's body. I love that. He like creates a diversion. He's like, I gotta get that trophy or else this was meaningless. Steals the body.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah, need my prize.
And then he gets Mac, blasts him in the fucking head out of nowhere. You kind of think like he traps him using, I think, Dylan's voice or something.
Yeah, he used his voice, and he's like, at first you're thinking like Mac kind of has a good game plan. Let's see how this plays out. And then you see the fucking 3-dotted red laser, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah, it's a hell of a gun. Mac's dead. He gets Dylan. I love Dylan's like last stand when he blasts his arm off and the arm's still firing the gun.
Oh, it's such a badass moment.
That is I wanted to talk about the scene. It looks so good. Like it is for Army. I got into this weird Army movie phase like a couple of weeks ago and just binged like everything they possibly could have on any streaming service. And so looking up like the different effects, like that looks so good.
Yeah, for 1987, this is aged remarkably. This still looks badass.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it does. Yeah, because that scene looks really good, and then just seeing him like try to use his other arm to shoot it, and he just fucking sticks them, and you're like, ah, damn it.
Dylan's death roar, and then they hear it. He's like, ah, it's so awesome, so anguished, and they're all like, oh, we lost Dylan.
Oh, he's dead.
And Billy takes that opportunity to be like, go. And takes off his shirt, gets a machete. I really wish we got to see that fight.
Oh, I mean, we're going to essentially see a Native American take on a Predator this Friday. So
that's true. Is it just me or did Billy's scream seem a little like high for him? His voice sounded higher when he screamed.
Maybe.
Just always sounded weird to me. Yeah, we lose Billy.
We saw the Predator's face. He got horrified.
True.
Poncho gets blasted in the side of the head, which is weird because he wasn't armed.
He was armed earlier. I think at that point the Predator was just like, you're a part of this group that's been, part of the hunt. So I'm taking you out and finishing you off.
Fair enough. Yeah. And now Anna, gets to the chopper.
Get to the chopper.
Arnold said we get that immortal line.
I do like because he's like, as Arnold was like trying to crawl away from the scene, you just see it behind him, just walking up, ready to do the kill, and you're like, "Get out of there, Arnie! You got this."
I love that the same gun that blew open Jesse Ventura and Bill Duke just kind of lightly burns Arnold's big arms. That always makes me laugh when he gets blasted by the gun, and he's just got like some like minor burns here.
He truly had the biggest arms then.
Yeah. I mean, if Space Gun can't pierce that, I don't know what can.
What if the Predator just gave up after that? He goes, you know what? Respect. And just walks away.
Just throws down a flintlock like he gave to Danny Glover. Like, I'm out.
For a Nightmare on Elm Street, Caleb, you mentioned like the whole Home Alone sequence. I think the Home Alone sequence in this movie is also like right up there with me.
I love that this is the second week in a row where we've had a movie where the villain was dispatched by Home Alone style traps.
Look, apparently it just works really well. That is a really cool sequence. So like after Arnie falls into the water, thank God there's not rocks at the bottom of that waterfall. Fun fact for you, when who doesn't know, a lot of waterfalls have rocks at the bottom and you don't always survive like you do in the movies.
Another fun fact, that water was rancid and they hated filming that. It was loaded with like creatures and it was tepid and it was disgusting. And
like what are we talking about? Like disgusting fish?
Yeah, like nasty river fish and those Amazon fish that swim up your dick.
Oh, swim up your penis.
Yeah. Sure, they were there. So they wanted to get that over with as soon as possible.
I mean, I don't know how many takes that poor Arnold had to do for that.
Covered in mud and shit. Like, I hope it was quick.
Yeah, but yeah, and this is when we find out the Predator, apparently mud, it can't see through it. Covers your heat signature.
Yep. That's how Predator sees people, their heat signatures. And if you're covered in mud, can't see you. Unless, of course, it takes off its mask and then it sees in a different way.
Yeah.
Or as we learn in Predator 2, it could just change the setting.
This one was not aware of that option. But no, I do like you said, this leads to the really great final, mano-a-mano between Schwarzenegger and the Predator, and he sets up his little Home Alone style traps to take this thing out. And this whole sequence is really badass. Just seeing now, this one I do know they've stated for the new one, it was a huge influence, was like just the fact of like the idea that like it didn't take guns to take this thing down. It took you going primal and really going back to like one-on-one. We're doing this the old-fashioned way.
Oh, yeah. One of my favorite movie moments of all time is when Dutch lights up the torch. You get that music swell, and he just fucking roars into the jungle to challenge this thing. It's like, oh my God, I get goosebumps every time.
Yeah.
That is a man who's lost his whole team. He's had a day, and he's about to fuck this thing up.
It is extremely personal now.
Yeah, the last act of the movie for me has always been my favorite, where it just really like you are completely out of the sort of action, and now it's like he's like on the hunt. He's taking the fights with the Predator. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's awesome to just like he's figured this thing out. He knows how it hunts. He's going to use that against him. And when the thing takes its mask off and you finally get to see what this thing looks like, the payoff is so good. It's not like a dorky looking Van Damme blobster. It's a monster. It's a 7 foot tall alien monster that is gonna fuck this guy up.
I love how we get to that reveal. Like even the Predators kind of acknowledge, like, okay, this is the true challenger. So instead of just finishing off, he takes that moment to step back and take his mouse. Be like, let's go, dude. It's you and me now.
Well, that's something that's consistent in every Predator movie is once it's, the Predator's hunting, but then he comes across a challenge. And when there's a challenge, it's like he wants to be on even playing field. The tools are gone, the guns are gone, the mask is gone. It's strength versus strength alone. I love that part of the Predator movie. Every movie, it's always like, oh shit, now we're talking.
Yeah. It's badass as hell, and the payoff is so great because we get the other one of the many immoral lines we've said throughout, which is Schwarzenegger going, "You're one ugly motherfucker," which I love how they play that in the second movie when the Predator actually says it himself. I hope Prey keeps that. I don't think motherfucker existed among the Comanche in 1600. I don't know. I will say this. It looks like I'm really excited because I've heard inklings before the embargo lifts this upcoming Wednesday, essentially, and reviews can get posted. It's been a lot of positive comments on social media from people that have seen it saying this is a badass Predator movie.
That's good. I'm excited. I'm very excited. Yeah. So Arnold fucks this thing up with a tree after doing that whole, come on, kill me, which I always love.
Yeah. Kill me. I'm right here. Kill me. Come on.
Smash it with a tree, goes over to hit it with a rock. I love that. That's so dishonorable to just bash him with a fucking rock. And the thing's bleeding out. And I love that exchange where Arnold says, what the hell are you? And the Predator scans it and reads it back to him. What the hell are you? Like, damn. And then he's a sore loser. He blows up the jungle.
I love how Arnold just stares at it for a while before he closes. Oh shit, that's a bomb. I need to bounce.
Does anything else have an ominous tick like that? Like he should have picked up on that pretty fast.
I would have on instinct just ran. I'd be like, he did some things and he's laughing. I might want to get out of this area.
That's another of my favorite movie moments is when the Predator, regurgitates Billy's laugh. And it's this like, I win asshole kind of last hurrah thing. It's like, oh, Jesus Christ. This movie is just perfection.
Yes. Yeah, for action movie, sort of run away from explosion. This one's pretty much up there for me. That's not so corny. It's actually like, okay, it's a point of concern that, hey, he needs to book it.
Plus the stance Schwarzenegger's posing, that power stance.
Yeah.
When the smoke clears, you're like, yeah, that's a man that's had a day.
That dude just survived an intergalactic hunter and a nuclear explosion. I think he's entitled to a power stance. I'm surprised Anna actually went to the chopper because she is for sure going to be waterboarded by the CIA.
Yeah, she is.
It's a damn shame. Arnold might try to stop that happening, but he doesn't have that kind of clout.
No. Well, we'll never know because every opportunity to bring him back to the franchise has fucking failed miserably.
Yeah. Well, I doubt it. I think he's just, I think he had a choice to, continue a franchise and he chose Terminator. Which is probably for the best.
Yeah. And to his credit, like I said, I'm with you, Predator 2, incredibly underrated. But I know he said he had read the script for the Predator and was considering it, but he didn't like the script, and that's why he turned it down. He's like, I didn't really like the script. And
I'm with you, Arnold. I'm with you.
Turn it down. I don't think his role was very meaty. I think he was hoping, like, hey, if you're gonna bring me back, I want to be meaty or something like that.
Well, he was supposed to be like the ending. Christian, you saw the Predator?
No, I've seen Predators, and I've seen like the Predator 2 when I was like younger. So I remember Predator 2 a little bit, but the Predator is like on TV, but I can totally miss the Predator.
All right, I won't spoil the ending then, but the original intended.
I
can? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there's this like box that I think it's Boyd Holbrook, right?
Yeah.
He finds on the Predator ship, and the original intention was it's this Predator killer thing, and it was the box was going to open, and it's Dutch. Who's like a Predator killer, but he didn't want to come back, so instead it's just like a suit, like a Predator suit that the humans put on, and they're like, now we can kill them faster. I guess because they've been able to do it for 4 movies. They could kill these things. I don't see how that gives them a leg up, but whatever.
There's a lot of intentions with the Predator that went nowhere.
So here are some Filmgazm facts for Predator. Number 1, Dutch's line, "Get to the chopper," is Arnold Schwarzenegger's personal favorite catchphrase of all of his films that he's appeared in. Better than "I'll be back." He loves "Get to the chopper."
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Everyone says it. I don't know anyone that hasn't at one point. It's just been like, "Get to the chopper."
Has anybody ever said chopper since 1987? Everybody says chopper.
Yeah, because that's how it comes out of his mouth.
Yeah, that's how you say it. Number 2, the Predator's blood, a goopy substance with the color of Mountain Dew, was made on set using a mixture of the liquid from a glow stick and KY jelly. So that's how you make Predator blood.
Lube and glow stick. Got it.
Lube and glow stick juice.
That doesn't sound like a good time or something you don't want to be stuck in. I mean, hey, they're in the jungle, so good thing that most KY jelly is water-based, so you can just dip it and it goes away.
Oh, I don't know how that works when you mix it with glow stick juice. I think that fucks it up a little bit.
You think that negates the...
It's for a good time.
Oh, number 3, the mandibles of the Predator. That's like the little, the mouth thing. That was James Cameron's idea, who stated, I've always wanted to see something with mandibles. And Stan Winston, who happened to be nearby, said, that's an interesting idea. So we started drawing mandibles on the bug thing, and that turned into the Predator we know and love. So you can thank James Cameron, because he certainly has many times, for the face of the Predator.
His mandible kink.
Yeah, he takes credit for this constantly. He's like, yeah, I'm the guy who made the Predator.
You think every time he watches Predator or new one comes out, he's like, yeah, that was my ideal.
I think he thinks that with a lot of movies. I think he's convinced himself he's responsible for a lot more than he really is.
Yeah. Like, because, like, how he was going to do like an R-rated Spider-Man. I think he watches like Sam Raimi's trilogy and he goes like, I mean, without my ideal, this wouldn't happen. So, I did this.
Sure. Anytime there's a robot, he's like, well, I made the Terminator, which has robots in it. So this is pretty much mine as well. Oh my God.
You're filming underwater? Mine.
Aquaman, it's pretty much the abyss. I'll take that. Number 4, Jesse Ventura once said that firing the minigun is, quote, like shooting a chainsaw, which is pretty badass. And if anybody could do that, it's the body.
God, what a,
I think
what a man
he'd make an awesome if they would let Leatherface talk, Jesse Ventura.
No, because then he'd be spouting how he's a sexual tyrannosaurus as he's chasing people down.
Leatherface in Texas Chainsaw 2 100% thought he was a sexual tyrannosaurus.
Just at some point, Ventura being like, "You're a bunch of slack jawed," in a fucking Chainsaw Massacre movie, just unprompted. I don't know.
He pulls a
In a bad
chainsaw
country
gun
accent.
out of nowhere and starts firing into a crowd.
I ain't got time to bleed, but you do.
And number 4, I thought this was really cool. According to Gary Busey, when he was interviewed on the set of Predator 2, Dylan was working for his character, Peter Keyes, in like before the events of Predator. Peter Keyes commissioned the CIA operation in the Central American jungle, and he used Dylan to send Dutch and his team into the jungle to draw out the Predator. This had nothing to do with the guerrillas. Peter Keyes wanted the Predator. He sent Dylan, who then sent Dutch's team under the guise of guerrilla insurgents. But Peter Keyes, his whole thing was to capture the Predator.
That would be interesting if that's true, because that's how they've kind of linked this whole series. There's like little tangential thing like that to keep it linked.
Yeah.
Obviously Predators flipped it with like, hey, we'll just bring them to the fucking planet and just not worry about any of that. But then obviously with the Predator, they cast Jake Busey over here, I believe, as the son of Gary Busey's character.
Yeah.
To have that linkage there. So I mean, it makes sense. There's always been like a tangential link like that throughout the series.
Well, it makes sense, if in Predator 2, it's implied that like the CIA, and Keyes has known about these things for a while and they want one. So when when the signs show up in Central America, he's going to send a team to go see if they can get one. I totally get that. That makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah. It's called Predator 2. It's a direct sequel. It's the most direct sequel they've made. So it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Pretty sweet. They even mentioned, Dutch said, he encountered something in Central America, but they quickly, disavowed him and shut him down. Like,
oh yeah, that's right.
So real quick, let's dig into the sequels just briefly. First up, there was 1990's Predator 2. Takes place in a gang-ridden Los Angeles with Danny Glover as our new hero. Was pretty critically reviled, has kind of gone down as a bit of a joke, but I think has been reclaimed in recent years as more of a cult favorite. I certainly enjoy Predator 2. I think it's a good movie. I love the Voodoo King guy who takes on the Predator. There's no stopping what can't be stopped. I love that whole thing.
It's one
King Willie. That was his name. King Willie.
Okay. It's definitely been reclaimed as a cult classic. I know a lot, myself included, that like when I watched the first one, it wasn't too long after I watched 2. And I remember just kind of as a kid being like, oh, that wasn't as good. But as I go on, I'm like, no, Predator 2 is actually pretty underrated. And that's what I've seen a lot of people say now. A lot of people consider it to be incredibly underrated. And I think it just had a lot to do with it. Dare they not have Schwarzenegger come back, right? Dare they not have him in the jungle again? It's the urban jungle. But if anything, like, I kind of like that the sequel goes so ballsy to say, like, hey, it's a new set of characters, again, with some kind of tangential relation. And now we're putting the Predator in a new setting. I've talked about it obviously with the upcoming Prey. Like, I like the idea of putting the Predator in different settings, or in this case, different time periods, and seeing like what he's capable of doing. So
yeah,
this was really the first sequel to do that, and yeah, underrated.
Right on. Then there was 2004's Alien versus Predator, which sees 3 juvenile predators hunting the xenomorphs from the Alien franchise in an ancient pyramid in the Arctic. And we covered this one on episode 121 a while back. I don't know why they took 2 R-rated franchises and made a PG-13 spinoff. That was stupid. But it's not bad. I think the first AVP is a decent watch. It's not amazing, but it's watchable.
It's a fun enough watch, but that always bugs me. I'm usually not a stickler for like ratings like that, but like when you take 2 R-rated franchises and like and then the fact that Paul W.S. Anderson, the guy that has done Event Horizon and fucking he's done R-rated films, so it's not like is it out of his fucking realm of possibilities here.
Yeah.
So for him to double down and be like, no, this was the film we shot, because I know there's people hoping like maybe we get a director's cut that is rated R, and maybe the studio pulled a Live Free or Die Hard, right? They just went in and fucked with the damn edit themselves and made it PG-13. Not the case. Literally what he found it to be. I'm like, I don't know why you doubled down on this one of all things.
Yeah, I don't know. Then there was 2007's Aliens versus Predator Requiem. Following the events of AVP, the King Predator, I'm assuming, goes to Earth for some damage control, hunts an alien predator hybrid creature in a small town. This is the lowest point of probably both franchises.
Oh, this movie sucked. I actually watched this recently when I was on deployment just to kind of watch them. And yeah, this one sucks. You can barely see a goddamn thing. So the lighting is so fucking terrible.
That's the worst.
Yeah.
And it's just gross. Like the whole pregnant lady thing was too much. The characters are all terrible and you don't like anybody. And the whole Pred Alien concept gets totally wasted.
The Pred Alien's wasted. I didn't necessarily mind the whole alien. Like I was kind of like, oh, that's a dark route to go and I'm down for it. But then they quickly, move past it. Yeah. Characters, all the characters are unlikable. There wasn't a single likable character. And forgettable. So many forgettable characters in this damn movie. And it almost felt like but this time, obviously this one's rated R this time, but it almost felt like they were doing that less because they wanted to, more because they were just like, okay, we hear you. Shit, we'll make this one R. Fuck, fuck me, right? Type of deal. Like, it almost felt like they didn't want to. They just were tired of fans bitching, so they were like, okay, fine, we'll fucking do it.
Yeah. Alien versus Predator. I haven't seen the second one in a long time. I just don't want to. I'm sure we'll do it on Beyond the Bad at some point.
Hey, if my hope is real and they do ever announce a new Alien versus Predator, now that they're owned by the same company, again, I'm anticipating we have to wait to see how the Alien series on FX does next year.
Yeah.
And obviously pray this upcoming weekend. If that is the case, this will be a good plug. It'll be a good tie-in.
Yeah.
Yes, it will. Next, we got 2010's Predators. A group of soldiers, killers, and gangsters are abducted and trapped in a game preserve where two separate races of predator are hunting them for sport. And this is probably the most criminally underrated film in the franchise. This is such a fun adventure and such a cool concept and really exciting. I really enjoy Predators.
Yeah, I never got why people don't like this one. I'm like, this one's so the only negative I have for it is Adrian Brody tries way too hard to be a tough guy. It just seems very forced coming from him, but everything else, even Topher Grace, his whole twist out of nowhere, he actually really sold that. I'm like, God damn, okay, Eric.
I love that the implications of that the Predators captured a active serial killer means they were doing some detective work.
They were studying.
They were studying him. They were watching and they were like, oh, he's the guy. All right, let's grab him.
Yeah, I thought this was fun. I didn't think it needed to necessarily connect to anything. I thought it was just kind of a fun addition to the whole franchise and something different, which is always good to see that people actually take risks and there aren't just regurgitating the same sort of formula.
Yeah. Plus, it was really us getting to see different types of predators. Even in Predator 2, you kind of see they all look the same for the most part. But in this one, it's no, here's what the different ones look like. And like you said there, at one point, it's always a badass moment. One of the more badass moments when they find that fucked up camp and what's going on here, and they leave and you see 3 goddamn predators uncloak themselves and you're like, holy shit, they were watching them they were right there the whole goddamn time.
Yeah. I might just watch that one for kicks soon. Next we had 2018's The Predator. A group of mentally ill soldiers protect a young boy who's being hunted by a predator who wants to add the boy's autism to its arsenal of intergalactic weapons. I don't really get that. I thought this one was dumb. The comedy was poorly timed. Again, no real interesting, memorable characters, and just kind of ripped off chunks of the previous 3 movies to try to make something that meshed, and it didn't.
Yeah, with this one, in all seriousness, it is definitely a mixture of you can tell the studio did some meddling probably with the script, but at the same time, Shane Blackman, what is it when you get to franchises that you drop the ball? I don't understand, especially because I remember the anticipation for it when it was announced that he was directing was high. Every film was like, oh shit, you got the guy who was actually in the original film. He polished the script. He knows this. He is intimate. He was there at the very beginning, and he's coming back to write and direct a new one.
Yeah.
You could have not had a better match in heaven, and somehow through whatever he wrote, whatever studio meddling happened, whatever fucking happened behind the scenes. It's gonna make an interesting Beyond the Bad episode one day.
Yes.
We got what we got, and it was just Jesus fucking Christ, what happened?
Yeah, and it was I think it was supposed to, kind of jumpstart the franchise. They were gonna do more, and then it bombed so hard and everyone hated it that it was just let's just start over. And what they started over with is 2022's Prey, the new Hulu original film. It's this group of Comanche taking on the Predator 300 years before the first film. Definitely the biggest shakeup in this franchise yet. New, like completely new territory and a great concept. And I'm very excited.
Yeah, I cannot wait for Friday to see this. You know, like many horror films I was hearing about for the year, you know, a good chunk were like, hey, they're coming out this year. And it's like, well, okay, when? Oh, they're coming out this year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, I've talked about this before. Luckily I finally got, you know, a recent update on Evil Dead, which is what Bruce Campbell said about, hey, it actually tested really positive. That's why you're not seeing a trailer yet. You know, it might get the actual release. Still going got shown on Hellraiser though. Still going got shown that Hulu.
We'll get
but yeah, no, when they finally like premiered the trailer for this, oh, I think I watched that thing like 5 times in one day. Like it was such a bad, like, talk about a trailer that says like, look, this is the concept. Here's the Predator. Are you in or are you in? You tell us on August 5th.
Oh yeah. I just hope we get a physical release someday so I could, you know, add it to the collection.
Same.
Yeah, this is probably the one that I'm like most excited for, especially with this rewatch. It's kind of pulled me back into this franchise. I feel like I've kind of neglected. I definitely am more of an Alien fan than a Predator fan, just because it's what I was more exposed to. But I think Prey looks like a really good change in the right direction. I think that, yeah, especially just like the context. I think there's so much more. If you're gonna talk about like the ultimate hunters and be like that, you have to like include like Native Americans into that. So that's like an awesome take into like, oh, you know, and then especially like they're definitely gonna just like the whole colonization aspect of stuff like that. So I'm expecting like somewhat of a commentary, but also just like a really good movie as well.
Same.
Well, what's cool is that this film has Native Americans both in front of and behind the camera.
Yeah,
I'm very adamant about that. This is a Native American filmed movie, which is really cool. So it's, or at least, you know, people that is very much their heritage, that is in their blood, that is, you know, people that are, I think, tied to both the Comanche and the Blackfeet tribes or something like that. Some other tribe. I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But you know, 2 tribes are behind and in front of the camera.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the show Reservation Dogs, and so I think that's also kind of the same. It's on Hulu as well, or Hulu FX, but yeah, I think especially when you go with, like, nowadays every studio is trying to be inclusive, and there's definitely some times where it feels very forced and like definitely performative, but giving people opportunity like this has definitely been the step in the right direction to actually like more inclusive products that aren't just, hey, sort of this one flavor taste of diversity. So I think, yeah, the movie like this and the step in the right direction is definitely like a good type of like inclusion that Hollywood is going towards.
Yeah. And it just fits me with the Predator concept. Like something about this just fits with the Predator concept of Predator. So it just works really well. And yeah, you know, like it's funny because you say when it's forced, which it's fine because this is technically, you know, a Disney backed production. And I've kind of complained that Disney has made it abundantly clear for years. Hey, look, our first gay couple. Hey, look, our first gay couple. And like everything they do, it's point where like stop it because it's not coming off.
Yeah,
you know, genuinely anymore. It's coming off just like you're doing it to do it. Now they've kind of calmed down, thank God. But you know, like it's funny that you say that just because Disney was one of my biggest. That was one of my biggest complaints in recent years. Like, stop, do so much because it comes off like disingenuous and you're just doing it to check off a box and not just it be a part of your movie.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And I think that I was also going to comment on that because there's some performative, that's not to get too off subject, but no, it's like some people, especially Disney adults and Disney fans, hardcore Disney fans, you know, they'll take the background gay couple and they'll take that like, oh, look at this, such like Disney's so awesome for doing this inclusion. But like also Disney could make a movie about a gay couple. They don't have to just put them in the background. Like there's also that they could also make that effort for inclusion. So not like you shouldn't settle for, you know, like not like, yo, this is a good step in the right direction, but also, hey, these companies can also have the effort to put in an actual thing. Like don't settle just for this bare minimum amount of inclusion.
At this point in culture, I'm tired of steps in the right direction. It's like,
exactly. Yeah.
People exist. Like, stop acting like they don't.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
kind of
I
annoying.
want them to, if you're gonna do it, like double down and fully embrace it. I think that's the thing. Not just like, hey, here's a little snippet of us being inclusive. No.
Yeah, that's very important. I'm glad Prey is, giving us a movie, fully made and featuring Native Americans. And, I'm glad that I want to see them fuck this Predator up. I'm excited.
Yeah. I think the only non-Native American is actually Dan Trachtenberg, the director.
Yeah.
I think he's a white dude, but I think he was handpicked by like the Native American producer. Like it wasn't like they just do him. I think he was actually handpicked for it.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I give the first Predator a 10. It's one of the best action films of all time. Just gets better with age. And speaking for our lost team member, Colton, he also gives it a 10. He loves the face off at the end. He thinks it's cheesy and oozing with testosterone, but overall, really good.
He got Predatored, but he still gave us the score. Hell yeah. I'm in agreement. This is a 10 out of 10. This is a kick-ass action movie, awesome horror flick as well. My favorite Schwarzenegger film, without a doubt. It is neck and neck with T2, admittedly. I mean, that's a neck and neck race. Just a great film that kicked off to me a really good franchise that has so far been one of the rare franchises that I only don't like one movie. This is pretty solid, consistent franchise. So
yeah, I definitely give it a 10. I think it does a lot of things well, and I think it's really rare, especially when you look at the time when so much of it was so concentrated and so heavily with like these kind of B action movies. No, this does everything really, really, really well. I think it's Arnold in his bag. He's in his best possible form that Arnold could be in. Definitely a 10 out of 10.
Josh reviewed this earlier this year, sometime last year, and he also gave it a 10. And I'm going to go ahead and speak for Austin. He too gives this a 10. I don't care what he tells me later. Whole team, 10.
I won't laugh if like he secretly despises this movie. I actually give it a 5.
I don't think so. I think he likes this movie. I'm going to go ahead and assume he does. Because I think it'd be awesome if literally the whole team gave this a 10. We've never had that happen before.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, we have on stuff like Jaws.
Well, I'm counting like the whole. We didn't have Cristian. We didn't have Colton at the time.
Oh, I was about to say. Okay, my bad.
Yeah, everyone we have at the moment, because we've had us the before four, as I'm calling them. We've had some agreements. Halloween, Jaws, but going forward, we got 6 to consider.
Okay, my bad. Jesus Christ.
Exclude me,
Caleb.
Exclude me, Caleb.
Look, Connor, you're still the ultimately rude one because you're speaking on behalf of Austin, who has not given his actual say. So I'll make sure to text Austin personally and ask him.
Actually, I want him to hear this and I want him to hear that he gave it a 10 that way. So please hold off on that. I think that'd be funny if he just texts me like, I just heard the episode.
Usually like a detail on why he's not going to give it a 10 now.
I hope he gives into peer pressure and just agrees with me.
Jesus Christ.
Thanks for listening, everybody. If you like the show, you know what to do. Follow us on our socials, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Filmgazm Productions. You can send us a message there if you want to suggest films, give us feedback, or you can email us at filmgazm@gmail.com. Check out our website where we have articles, reviews, trailers of upcoming films, every episode of our shows. If you want to support the show through Anchor, you can click on support this podcast on your preferred provider. And that's 200 episodes. It's been so much fun getting here. I'm extremely thankful for the friendships I've found with this show and the films I've gotten to enjoy because of it. It's time to start the journey to 300 episodes. Going forward, we're going to be doing mostly random picks from our giant list of potential episodes that we call the Book of Filmgazm. Genres all across the board, just random cool shit that we want to talk about. We've already randomly selected episodes 201 to 206, and we're really excited to dig into weirder and weirder stuff across all genres. Next week, to start, we're tackling our first Bruce Lee movie, which happens to be his last, 1979's Game of Death, in which a martial arts movie star must fake his own death to find the people who are trying to kill him. Lee only filmed parts of the movie before his sudden death in 1973, The rest of the film was cut together using body doubles, cardboard cutouts, archive footage, and even footage of Lee's actual funeral. There's heaps of controversy surrounding this film, and thanks to the Book of Filmgazm, it's sure to be a great way to start the next 100 episodes. Game of Death. Always wanted to see this one. The more I hear about this, the more I can't believe this actually was made into a coherent film. So it's going to be fun.
It's a good one.
Oh, yeah. Don't miss Wild Wild West on Fridays Beyond the Bad, and Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood on Oscar Sunday. In the meantime, if you're being hunted by an intergalactic big game hunter, don't be a hero. Drop your gun and run for it. Thanks for listening to 200 episodes, and keep watching movies.